And you heard me say before that he's lost somewhere north of 350,000 people killed and wounded. And we believe that that number is probably much higher than that. So, you know, we saw him go tin cupping to North Korea and Iran months ago when he began to experience serious problems with munitions. And so if this is the case, then this would be doing the same thing for people. But again, if that's true, it's serious. It's something that we'll continue to watch. So.
Without speaking about the greatest potential intent, can you confirm that there are North Korean soldiers now being equipped with Russia?
I can't confirm that, Laura. So.
Great.
Mr. Secretary, the G7 statement today stresses the importance of supporting UNIFIL. Yet UNIFIL says it has come under several deliberate attacks by Israeli forces in recent days. Do you agree with the Israeli military that deliberately attacked UNIFIL? And what is your response to these concerns?
Well, certainly UNIFIL plays a key role in 1701, making sure that you know there is a possibility to put into play that agreement if there is a ceasefire in the future. So we need the UNIFIL forces there, and they work with the LAF forces, as you know. Certainly, I've seen and heard the reports that UNIFIL forces have come under fire. I've raised this issue with my counterpart, Minister Gallant, and again, it's a war zone, so a number of things can happen. He assured me that there's no intent of him or his forces to target UNIFIL forces. But again, I continue to emphasize how important it is that those forces don't come under attack. So.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. One of the points, two of the points, at least within the joint declaration today, indicated the G7 is seeking to deter China and maintain the status quo in the region, both in support of Russia and its expansion of the South China Sea, particularly with regard to talking to Japan's defense minister today and by that. What more can you share about the goals that you see being achieved through this agreement?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all of that. So.
In terms of the agreement that was signed today, maintained and emphasized the need to deter China and the South China Sea, as well as deter China from supporting Russia and towards Ukraine. Can you speak more about what you and the Japanese defense minister spoke about in achieving that goal?
Well, I think we all are interested in preserving free and open Indo-Pacific, and nobody wants to see a change to the status quo by any one party. And so we have a common vision of the Indo-Pacific, and that is that countries can sail and sail the international seas and fly international airways without harassment, without interruption. And so that common vision pulls us together, pulls a number of countries together to work on things. And we are very much concerned about any support that China would provide to Russia in its illegal and unprovoked aggression against its neighbor, Ukraine. So I think we all see this alike, and nobody wants to see Russia continue to do what it's doing. So I think this is a common vision that pulls all of us together. And Japan is one of our greatest allies in the region, and we continue to work together to strengthen that alliance. There are a number of things, as you know, that we're working on together. And the minister is new to his position, but this is his third time as defense minister. And so he brings to the job a lot of experience, and I look forward to working with him.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, does Hamas control all of the hostages? And if not,
Who else does? Other groups such as possibly Islamic Jihad?
It's hard to say in terms of the remaining hostages who has their hands on hostages at this point in time. And I tell you what, at this point in time, nobody should be controlling hostages, and that's why we're pushing hard to get a ceasefire and release of the hostages.
What is the current military strength of Hamas and Hezbollah? Usually says.
I'll have to come back to you on that. I don't want to give you inaccurate information, but I would say that the Israelis have attrited the fighting force significantly. I would say that they've had really good effects on the leadership, and this latest blow in taking out Sinwar, I think, is meaningful. So I think in terms of the military capacity of Hamas, I think the IDF has done a pretty good job of taking away a lot of capability. So.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. So, Dana Stroll, who until recently served as the DOD's top official for the Middle East, she said in an interview with the Financial Times just recently that when it comes to missile interceptors, quote, the U.S. can't continue supplying both Ukraine and Israel at the same pace we are reaching a tipping point. Do you agree with that assessment? Is the U.S. running precariously low on these missions and won't be unable to supply both Ukraine and Israel in the potential near future?
We've said, and we stand by what we said, that we're going to continue to support Ukraine, and we're going to continue to provide support to Israel as it seeks to defend its sovereign space. I think you have to look at this from a standpoint of, while we're the only country primarily supporting Israel, there are 50 other countries helping us to support Ukraine. And so, as you know, we meet together every month in the Ukraine Defense Contact Group. And I think next month, President Biden will bring the senior leaders together in a summit. We were going to do that this month, but we had to postpone it because of the concerns raised by the hurricane. So it's really kind of apples and oranges, and they don't use or consume exactly the same kinds of things. There is similarity, but not an exact match across the board. So yeah, we're going to continue to support Israel in its efforts to defend itself. And again, I think from what I heard from all of my colleagues at NATO this last week, they remain committed to doing what's necessary to support Ukraine. So.
Hi, Mr. Secretary. I just want to ask you about two issues that you've raised in recent days with the Israeli government.
Is this going to be one question or two questions?
It's a one-two-part question. First, on the, U.S. Secretary Blinken wrote this letter that was made public to the Israeli government, raising concerns about the delivery of humanitarian aid and giving them 30 days to demonstrate improvement on that. I think that was about 6 days ago. Have you seen any indications that the Israeli government is facilitating a greater flow of aid supplies into Gaza since you all sent that letter, I believe, on the 13th? And then the other issue is related to Lebanon. We've gotten in the readouts of your calls with Minister Galan the fact that you've raised concerns about civilian casualties in Lebanon, just like you had in Gaza from the beginning of the conflict. Do you feel like the Israelis are taking sufficient care in Lebanon? There have been reports of more than 2,000 people killed since the beginning of the Northern Front. Thanks.
Whether or not they're taking care in Lebanon, I would tell you, and then we've seen this from some of the things that the results of the strikes here recently. First of all, LH makes a concerted effort to put its headquarters in materials like rockets and missiles in and amongst the population. And so that makes for a very difficult battle space. And any time that an adversary is doing that kind of thing, it's inviting opportunities for collateral damage. Having said that, I say the same thing that I said, about Gaza, and continue to say. The numbers of casualties civilian casualties have been far too high. We'd like to see, Israel scale back on some of the strikes that it's taking, especially in and around Beirut. And we'd like to see things transition to some sort of negotiation that would allow civilians on both sides of the border to return to their homes. And that's the point that I'll continue to make with Minister Gallant. And I think, yes, he does take on my input. So in terms of the specifics of correspondence between Secretary Blinken and I and our counterparts, that's correspondence that was designed for them, and I won't make public comments about that. What I will tell you is that, I've been talking about humanitarian assistance in Gaza from the very beginning, and how important it is to increase the amount of humanitarian assistance that's going in. And what we saw recently is a sharp decline in the amount of HA that was going in, and so we need to bend that curve in the other direction. We need to make sure that the civilians in Gaza are getting what they need to survive. I think they have a window of opportunity now with Hamas's leadership being taken out of the picture to really begin to focus in earnest on the people. As I said earlier, though, the primary objective is to get the hostages released and get a ceasefire. President Biden has been very clear on that, and he and the team are working hard to do what we can to bring that to fruition. So that work continues.
Just to clarify, are you seeing that sharp decline being reversed yet? The sharp decline?
That was just a little bit of Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin speaking in Italy, talking about the two major wars that are going on right now in Ukraine and, of course, Israel. But we do want to now go out to Atlanta here. We do want to showcase a little bit of Kamala Harris rally. We do have supporters and speakers speaking ahead right now of Harris in Atlanta. We're also expecting musician Usher to be speaking as well. So let's listen right here on Live Now from Fox. All right, we do not have the audio from the microphone yet. We're just hearing the background noise right now. So we'll keep an eye on that for you here on Live Now from Fox. But we do have some speakers ahead of Tim Walz out in Nebraska. Let's bring that to you right here.
And then on to Chadron State College, which he attended on the GI Bill because he served in the Nebraska Army National Guard. He met his wife, Gwen, who was here just a couple of weeks ago, when he was teaching, and they were both teaching high school in Alliance. As a Nebraskan, Tim knows how to get things done because we respect each other's differences. We know how to work together towards common goals. That's why he and Vice President Harris are fighting for a new way forward, where everyone in red and blue states, in urban and rural communities, has the opportunity to not just get by, but to get ahead. They have a plan to cut costs for families, to create more jobs and increase opportunity, and to protect reproductive rights and access to health care. It couldn't be more different from Donald Trump, who has always been out for just himself. And a second Trump term would be even more dangerous than the first. This one would be without any guardrails. This election is a clear choice between two futures for our country, one dark and vengeful, and one optimistic and inspirational. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz's vision is for a better and brighter future, led by hope that inspires others to join in, much like our little blue dot does. I'll let you in on a little secret. In 1991, when I signed the bill as governor that created our fair and representative electoral vote system, I wanted to make sure that we would no longer be a flyover state. And that Nebraskans would have a voice heard on a national level. And now, these past few months, we've seen just how bright that blue dot shines. We're showing the nation that Nebraskans are ready to lead the way into a future where everyone's rights are protected and respected, where America leads on the world stage, and where hate and fear have no place. That's the state I know and love. I couldn't be prouder that we're going to send Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to the White House. I know Tim likes to say, we'll sleep when we're dead, but I'm going to make it a little easier for you. We'll sleep on November the 6th. But for the next 17 days, we've got to work for it. Make sure you vote, but don't stop there. Talk to your friends and family. Sign up to volunteer. Make a difference. We're counting on you. Our country is counting on you. Thank you.
All right, everyone, you are watching here on Live Now from Fox. We appreciate everyone continuing to join us. We'll keep an eye on there. If we see Tim Walz, we'll bring that to you on Live Now from Fox. In the meantime, do want to show you out in Pennsylvania where Donald Trump has arrived there. We'll soon be talking out in Pennsylvania. We'll be keeping an eye on that for you, as always, right here on Live Now from Fox. It is a busy night for campaigns that we will be featuring for you on Live Now from Fox. But in the meantime, do want to go back out to Atlanta right now as we continue to showcase speakers ahead of Kamala Harris. And this is Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff speaking right now. Let's listen on Live Now.
Now, here in Georgia, we remember what it is to be the center of the political universe. When the entire nation looks to Georgia to define America's future. When Senator Warnock and I were running in those two historic Senate runoffs, everybody who makes a living polling and predicting and prognosticating said there was no way. They said there was no way. But Georgia, out of no way, we made a way. You did that, Georgia. And it made a profound difference across our state, across our country, and around the world. And now, once again, Georgia, the nation turns its eyes to us to see what difference we will make with future generations counting on us at a pivotal moment in American history. This is an election that will determine the character of our republic. This is much deeper than Democrats versus Republicans. Former President Trump is unfit for the presidency. He lacks the integrity. He lacks the moral compass necessary to lead us in the Oval Office, and he's proven it again and again. And by the way, I'm not talking about mean tweets. I'm not talking about insults. See, some folks, they say, well, maybe he's rude, but that's just Trump being Trump, and that's all there is to it. No, Georgia, we're not talking about bad manners here. We're talking about the disrespect for service members and veterans and the belittling of wounded warriors that make him unfit to be our commander-in-chief. Because in Georgia, we honor and we respect those who serve. I'm talking about his threats to turn the power of the federal government and the National Guard against his critics, and to purge the government of all who don't pledge their loyalty to him. Because in Georgia, we believe in loyalty to the Constitution, not to a strong man. I'm talking about his abuse of power and his despicable schemes to hold on to power by hook or by crook, even when the voters rejected him. Because in Georgia, after all that's been sacrificed by heroes like John Lewis, we will defend our voting rights against those who would trample them. I want to say it again, this is deeper than Democrats versus Republicans. It is about the character of our nation. And that's why Vice President Harris has built a coalition to win Georgia that includes Republicans, independents, and Democrats, all Georgians ready to turn the page on Donald Trump once and for all. So Georgia, are you ready to win? And don't just take my word for it. The former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he served for years as our nation's most senior military officer under Donald Trump. He said Donald Trump is, quote, the most dangerous person ever. He said Donald Trump is, quote, a fascist to his core. Think about that for a second. This is the man who led the United States Armed Forces under Donald Trump. You should hear what Republican senators say about Donald Trump when the microphones are off. See, there are a lot of elected Republicans who know the man is unfit for the presidency. But no matter what he says or does, even after he tried to force them to break the law and overturn an election, even after he raised a mob that assaulted the police and sacked the U.S. Capitol, even after his lies about the election put at risk the lives of election officials in Georgia and across the country, mostly they just fall in line. These elected officials in his own party will not restrain him if he is returned to power. It's up to us. It's up to us to turn the page on Donald Trump once and for all, Georgia. This election will be won here in Georgia. America's future will be won here in Georgia. So Georgia.